Welcome back to La Coalición podcast. The gang is all back together again, this time to talk about the first presidential debate between Vice President Kamala Harris, the new Democratic nominee, and Republican nominee Donald Trump. Might be the only time we see them debate, but there's a lot of fun things and a lot of crazy things that went on last night. I'm Hector,
I'm Eddie.
I'm Yasmin.
and we're going to just get right into it. So, yes, you need to tell us, are you a cat or are you a dog person?
I have both, so it's really hard to decide because That's like-
Maybe the more important
that's-
question is, do you leave them outside at night? Or are they locked
so
up in your
I
home?
have an indoor cat and I have
Okay.
an outdoor cat. The outdoor cat, she chooses to stay outside. I bring her in sometimes, but she just does not like it.
Okay.
So she stays outside. And then my orange cat, he's a boy. He stays inside.
Well, he saw the debate last night, so he knows better. He knows better. That outdoor cat might start coming
For
inside
real.
now too. Eddie, are you a cat person or are you a dog person?
Oh man, I feel like it's a cop out, but I have both too. I have 3 dogs and a cat, and our cat's like ancient. She's 18 years old, so she still likes to go outside and
Yeah.
like do her thing. But we have 3 cats in the street that like to hang out around our house, like 3 stray cats. They're stray, but like our neighbors take care of them, but they don't take them in. But they love to hang out
Are
in
they
our
taking
house.
care of them?
Like they, like
I
they,
may
like
not
I
see them come around very often anymore.
well, maybe not in Ohio, but they like to feed them, and then sometimes when they get into trouble, like they'll take care of them. But they come kick it at our pad. They're literally on top of my car when I get home. They're in our yard chilling. So I feel like I have a lot of pets. I like both, but if I had to pick, gun to my head, dogs.
Dogs. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have neither. So that's my answer. But if I were to get a pet, I would probably want to start with a dog. I'm not hostile to cats, so I would be welcoming to a cat, but I would probably want to start with a dog. But all of this to say, this we're of course alluding to, but probably one of the craziest moments to happen last night in the presidential debate. We'll get into that, but before that, Eddie, why don't you kick us off? Tell us what your first reactions were to last night's presidential debate.
Speaking of dogs, Donald Trump has lost that dog in him.
Yes.
I feel like at first we were talking a little bit before we started recording that Kamala seemed a little apprehensive and a little anxious perhaps. And that's because Trump is so good at debating on the stage and controlling the conversation, the narrative. And that's what kind of projected him when he was running in 2015, 2016. He was just crushing everybody. Jeb Bush, little Rubio, Marco Rubio,
yeah.
Ted Cruz, all of them. He had nicknames for everybody. And now you kind of see what's left of him and a little, a year and a half left of him now. So he's not all there. So that was really interesting to see the dynamic and how Kamala was able to just present herself a little bit more comfortable towards the end and just, I think overall kind of took the win, if you want to call it a win. Yeah. So that was my overall.
Yeah, and started off with kind of a power move, like just not giving him the opportunity to come up to her. She went straight to him, reached her arm out to introduce herself and give him a handshake.
It was the first time that they met each other too.
Yes,
that
yeah.
was
Yeah.
crazy.
They've kind of been
Yeah.
in the same space as she was a senator when he was president, so they've been in Congress for like State of the Unions and stuff, but they've never officially
Yeah.
met each other. That was the first time that they had officially met each other. Yasmin, what were your kind of just overall reactions to the debate last night?
Yeah, I feel like since like knowing that it was their first time meeting, I'm kind of curious what their first impressions are because
Yeah,
like
of each
obviously
other.
they know each other, but
yeah,
like
yeah,
actually meeting face to face, like that's crazy. I
yeah.
never thought about that. But I just feel like yeah, she ate. Like she was literally the whole time like
Down.
you could see her looking at him and like the faces she would make, like I would literally be laughing because I'm like, dude, like he's just staring straight. Like he wouldn't even look at her. Like
Yeah.
that's how I feel like intimidated he was of her. And that was just crazy because that's not a side of Trump that we've ever really seen.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I was telling you guys, I think at the beginning, she started with that power move, like we said, but then once it got into the questioning, she seemed a little rocky, like she was nervous. Her speech pattern was kind of tripping up. Her voice was like, like when you're kind of nervous,
Yeah.
your voice starts to like crack or it gets lower. I think as it advanced, as she saw like I'm like dragging him, like she got way more comfortable with the situation. I think there was a lot of good highlights.
I think
and
Trump was
lowlights.
looking out for
Go for it.
shooters.
For sure.
Yeah. I think that's why he wasn't
Yeah.
looking at her. He's going to keep an eye on his close eye.
Yeah, looking up. This joke is probably inappropriate, but you know how Megan Thee Stallion was, she was a victim of like violence, and Nicki Minaj made a rap to like make fun of her, saying like, "How are you a victim if you have no scars?" Somebody like Photoshop Joe Biden sharing that lyrics to his Instagram story.
No way.
But anyways, there was some lowlights, there was some highlights. I think for me overall, I thought that she had a really strong performance. One of the things I kept hearing was that she just kept dodging questions, which there were a lot of instances in which she just was dodging the question, refused to answer the question in the way in which it was posed. But there were some really substantial, at least in contrast to Donald Trump, some substantial policy conversations and conversations of ideas. But I think the strongest thing and the thing that she was most skillful at overall, I think she kind of had a way of going about her responses that was like a two-step approach, right? Let me talk about myself and my plan, and let me dangle little red meat for him. Like, let me put this bait out, and he took the bait every single time.
Yeah.
He could not control himself.
That was
Every
crazy.
single time. She said, let me talk about healthcare, and let me talk about my defense of the Affordable Care Act and my plan for healthcare going forward. But then let me also throw in John McCain's name, because that's going to trigger him and it's going to piss him off.
Yeah.
You know, so it was every response was, let me talk about me and my plan, and let me dangle this meat for him, because he took it every single time. And we just saw throughout the debate how more and more enraged he got, unable to control himself and go on to these crazy tangents. We'll talk about those crazy stuff that he was talking about last night. But I think that was probably the strongest thing that she did, was using her responses to accomplish two things.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that was the things he was saying. Like, it was just crazy because it felt so effortless on her part too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how I feel about. Actually, I know how I feel about her. I don't really like her, but it's just like, I was like, damn, like, it was just crazy seeing that interaction between the both of them. And yeah, I don't know, I feel like with the healthcare thing, when he said like, I have a concept of a plan, I was like, there's no way he said that. Like,
everyone will find out
literally running
soon.
for
Meanwhile,
president.
it's been like 8 years.
And like, you don't have a plan, you have a concept of a
concept
plan. Like,
of a
I was
plan.
like, there's no way.
Yeah, a concept of a plan. That was one of the
Yeah.
key moments of that last night.
Yeah, I mean, he was just kind of losing it throughout the whole debate. But
Yeah.
as far as, he did have a couple of one-liners that I thought were funny. So when he talked about giving her a MAGA hat, like, I thought about giving Kamala, sending you a MAGA hat
Oh, yes.
because of her policies and kind of going to the right of him in immigration. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
And then he did a joke of like a Dr. Seuss book. It was like Ron Spot Run, something like that.
Yeah.
Kind of in the
Yeah.
beginning of the debate, I thought it was kind
Yeah.
of funny too.
Talking about like her policy platform.
Yeah, so I feel like there were some holes that he was trying to attack as far as her mirage of just being a superficial candidate and not having a really substantive policy behind it. And I think Trump did attack her and was successful in making the point that, hey, you're attacking my policies, but you're also tailing me and the Republicans
Yeah.
in some policies as well. So I thought that was pretty good. Overall, though, you know, like you guys, I do feel like Kamala ended up on top of the conversations, leading really strong on some issues like Roe v. Wade. The race issue, I think, got in under Trump's skin
Yeah.
when the moderators asked Trump about, in the past, you know, you mentioned this about her, you called her a low IQ, you were saying that now she's running as a black candidate, but before, you know, et cetera.
Yeah.
And he really kind of stuttered and didn't really find a good way of answering
Yeah.
that question. And Kamala also didn't really want to get into the weeds of that for reasons, because
Yeah.
into this conversation, this debate last night, for me, I have to just remind myself that this is in the context of them winning the battleground states that are really crucial for winning
Exactly.
the whole election. So they're in Pennsylvania. It's really, really tough. Can go either way. So many other battleground states that they're thinking of. So California was never mentioned the whole time. They obviously mentioned immigration a whole bunch, which we can get into after this. But yeah, some issues barely even talked about, like climate change as well. Barely
Yeah.
even talked about at the very end. So,
Mm-hmm.
and fracking was, yes, let's all go on board with fracking. It's just like, obviously, this is not for us.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about immigration, because that was probably the most heated topics of conversation throughout the whole debate. I mean, they could have asked Trump what he had for breakfast today, and he would have brought in immigration. Every possible answer, every single response. How is the weather outside? He was going to talk about immigration.
Yeah.
Every response, he went into talking about immigration in such an agitated, in such an aggressive way. Even when they hadn't started talking about that topic, even when she hadn't even proposed what her thoughts on it were, you know. And I think that the moderators kind of did a setting up for Kamala, saying like, why is it that the Biden administration has waited for the months going up until the election to finally do something? And I thought her response was, a good response. She said we didn't. We waited to do executive orders, but the only reason we had to do that was because we had a set of legislation that failed because of President Trump. Obviously, I'm happy that that legislation failed because it was horrible. But I think that was a good response to kind of put her aside from the record of the Biden administration on immigration. He only used it once, which I was surprised at. I imagine his campaign people were like losing their mind, but like this whole idea of her being the border czar, her being the one in charge of the border, is what they really want to like put on her. And he only used it once. Like he never really talked about how the role that she's taking in the Biden administration on immigration. It's kind of just been all of the nasty, nasty rhetoric that we've been hearing. On Kamala's end, just reaffirm what she's already said, that if the Senate bill were to come up and were to pass again, that she would sign it. She didn't really spend a lot of time saying anything else on immigration. No kind of sympathetic bone to say, we still have a responsibility to, protect the immigrants that live here, to welcome immigrants, that we're a country of immigrants, all the kind of stereotypical things that we would normally hear. There was none of that. It was kind of just, if the Senate bill comes up, I'll sign it. And the need to invest more in border security and just pushing all of these bad border policies on Trump.
Yeah, I think the number was 1,500 new Border Patrol agents, and that's just not going to do anything positive for our communities.
Yep.
I think that the conversation for sure really dives into the narrative of good immigrant versus a bad immigrant, and immigrants that are in this country and immigrants that are coming into this country. So there's that stark divide that they're trying to push to divide our communities even further. New immigrants coming in, Haitians, Venezuelans, Cubans, they mentioned them.
Yep.
And the folks that are here trying to get a pathway to citizenship. It's going to make our movement even much weaker if that is the continuing trend, especially coming from Kamala if she wins. So for folks like LULAC and other organizations, United We Dream, that have sponsored and have put their support behind Kamala, they need to really reconsider what's in it for us and sponsoring and supporting her if they're continuing to push this divide between new asylum seekers, new immigrants coming in, and the folks that are here already, because it's going to be more divisive. And when policy gets written up, it's more than likely going to cut somebody out. Yeah. And we don't want that. We want everybody to be included in comprehensive immigration policy that benefits everybody, not just immigrants, but non-immigrants as well.
Yeah, exactly. What were your thoughts, Jess, on the whole, I mean, we can't even say a segment because it was basically the whole debate kept going back to immigration.
Yeah, I was disappointed in Kamala because I just wish she would have touched more on like how she is for the immigrant community. Like she clearly is not. She keeps going back to how she's a prosecutor. She's taking down these criminals and all these things, and
international drug cartels. All that.
It's always the same thing and nothing like that's gonna like uplift our community. I don't see any of that, and that's just really disappointing because I thought she would at least go into that, but I understand like the debate, like she has to get those swing states, so it's just annoying that this is how it's playing out because in the past other Democratic nominees, like they've actually touched on immigration in a way where it's like, oh, we're gonna get more pathway to citizenship, or like, with the whole spousal parole in place, that could have also been brought up.
Yep.
And it wasn't like it was just crazy to me that wasn't a topic of discussion. It was more so securing the border.
Yeah, no, definitely. In the past, like you said, we've had candidates who have done like a this and that. Like they've never been 100% like open borders or, reducing funding for Border Patrol or anything like that. But they've at least included in there some kind of sympathetic response to like we're a country of immigrants. We should be providing comprehensive pathways to citizenship, all of those things. But probably the two craziest moments of the night, at least for me, the funniest and most memeable moments came from the immigration discussions. Number one, Eddie, you talked about good immigrants and bad immigrants. You think the good immigrants are doing the transgender operations in prison?
Oh my God. That was so out of left field, dude. I mean, yeah, like if I was betting on something to come out of Trump's mouth, it would have been something along those lines, but it felt like that card game. I forgot what it's called, but you basically get to rearrange a sentence and
Cards
Against Humanity. It literally felt like that. He just picked random things.
Yeah.
Like what can be more xenophobic, what can be like more like woke, anti-woke,
Yeah.
whatever. And he put something together and it turned out to be like that. So
Yeah.
I was just like, holy shit, what am I watching right now?
Yeah, and transphobic, right? Because the whole thing,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's insane and it sounds insane. He's referring to the kind of effort that there was to provide gender affirming care for people who were detained. And in the same way that we would think about, like, we provide healthcare for those people. And if we think of gender affirming care as essential healthcare, like, that should be included in the kind of healthcare that is already provided for people who are detained under U.S. enforcement, you know? So that's what he was alluding to, but it's just the transphobic, like, nature of that sentence. But it's too funny not to laugh at.
Yeah. The memes were
The memes,
were
yeah,
going
the
crazy.
memes. And then part two of the crazy immigration stuff. And what we started the conversation with, the immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, who are stealing their neighbors' cats and their dogs and eating them.
He saw it on TV.
Yeah.
So it must
Yeah.
be true.
He saw it
Yeah.
on
He-
TV.
he
It must
saw it
be
on
true.
TV.
It must be
Yeah.
true. And I like that the moderators like fact checked it in real
Mhm.
time. Like the city manager of that city has said that this is not true, and he said we'll see, which I guess we'll see. But yeah.
It's really funny when you look online and you see comments from people that live in Springfield, employers and church leaders who are saying that the Haitian community, the Haitian people are amazing. They are a great benefit to the community. They show up to work, they show up to church, everything is full. And then it's just a couple of random, probably maggot out of their mind people that are complaining online about a missing cat here or there when there's no real evidence to show for that. But it's super racist, and we can expect a lot more of this to come down the
Mhm.
pipeline. Also, kind of expecting Border Patrol to release or to let a lot of folks looking for asylum coming to the country to show right before the elections that there's a huge issue, and that'll definitely be a tactic and a tool that I can expect Border Patrol to use because their unions are supporting Donald Trump. And it's funny because even Trump mentioned unions in the conversation of whose jobs these migrants are taking. He mentioned black people, he mentioned regular people, and he mentioned unions, even unions, right? He brought it up, which is so funny because we have our own feelings about unions here. We support them, but at the same time, they don't always support our movement as well. So there's a lot of unearthing that needs to be done around that conversation. So just bringing up unions to me was so funny because obviously that's not the real problem. Unions are actually, especially when we talk about Teamsters, having their president talk to the RNC and that convention, right, the Republican convention, just kind of shows where some unions are. They're looking at the Republicans and maybe potentially supporting them throughout this presidential election. So I just think there's a little bit of contradictions there. And lastly, I have to say it because I brought it up like 10 times. He mentioned Kamala's dad.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
And such a
Oh
dumb
my God.
moment too. Like what? He literally doesn't like her because she's not a Marxist. Like why
Yeah.
bring him up?
Yeah.
Like such a dumb moment for him to just like, yeah, you want to paint her as a Marxist by bringing up her Marxist dad who doesn't like her because she's not a Marxist
Yeah,
and she's
like-
not radical enough for him.
He's
Yeah.
trying to make her seem cooler than she is. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Exactly.
I wish.
Exactly.
I know.
One day I'll connect with them.
Yeah, I was watching a lot of like pre-debate coverage, and a lot of channels were showing like clips of him in his debates back in 2016 with Hillary Clinton, or even his debates back in 2020 with President Biden. And he was so much like sharper and so like so much more quick to respond to things and not get caught up in those situations. Obviously ridiculousness and stupidity, but still an ability to come back and guide the conversation, take ownership of the narrative. And that was just not at all what we saw last night, just flailing out of control. But yeah, any last thoughts on, or maybe if you want to share like your highlights, your lowlights of last night?
I'll share my low light. I think whenever Kamala talks about Gaza and Palestine, my heart sinks because it's nothing ever good that comes out of her mouth about that situation. She doubles down on these allegations that have been found to be false. The raping that didn't happen on October 7th, the babies, like none of that ever happened and there's no evidence for it, but she keeps parroting these lines from APAC. So it's just really disgusting. And every time she talks about it, I'm just like, God, why am I watching this? Because I know where I stand, and I sent our comms team a meme about Uh, well, we'll talk about that later, right? But again, I did that purposely because it's a third party candidate, so I don't want people to think that we're just talking about Kamala Harris as they're the only options. There are other options where you can feel morally and ethically okay with your decision to vote for president. That doesn't have to be a genocidal maniac, whether it's blue or red, it doesn't matter. And that's what, at the end of the day, we're seeing is two people that are for genocide, that they will continue to fund Israel. And that's a huge problem for a lot of people, especially in Michigan, which is a battleground state. So that can definitely sway the election one way or the other. So yeah, that's something that I'll keep an eye on for, just looking at the polls, because it's going to be really iffy when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I think also, like, to that point, I think American imperialism and Israeli imperialism like really won that debate, if we're being honest, because like I've been waiting to see like her actually speak up about Palestine in a way that she's saying like we're working tirelessly around the clock to like for a ceasefire deal. The clock is broken. Like, let's be fucking for real. Like, no, you're not. Like,
Yeah.
that's just so much bullshit. And it just makes me mad because I'm like, why do you keep repeating this phrase if you don't even mean it? You're not actually doing the work.
Right.
And then her saying, like, the solution is a 2-state solution. Like, I was like, girl. It's just so frustrating because at this point, like, I was talking to my friends yesterday and it just feels like I'm being gaslit into voting for Kamala because that's like, oh, you don't want Trump to win. But it's like, it just feels like I'm being forced into voting. And it just sucks that it's like that because I know there's other candidates, but it's like, it's just so difficult. Like, it just sucks that we're in this position because that is such an important issue for me. And yeah, I'm a single issue voter then if it comes down to that.
Right.
Because it's been too long. It's almost going to be a year since October 7th.
Yeah.
This whole thing. But this has been happening for decades.
Decades.
So it's just ridiculous and super disappointing on her part. I just wish she would have shown a little more support at the debate because I was hoping for it. But yeah, disappointed again.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about this in our episode about the DNC and our reactions to that. And I shared like how and has been like something that's been throughout her career. She really hates these ideas of like false choices, or the idea that we have to pick between things. I shared that when we talked about that day, I think, defending the actions that Israel is committing against the Palestinian people, and also at the same time trying to give the Palestinian people dignity. I don't think those two things are compatible. I don't think they could exist in the same kind of reality, but she does, and that's her idea on false choices, that we can do two things at the same time. In that case, I don't think they're compatible, but I think it was an answer, like I said in the DNC episode, that was sufficient enough for the kind of people that she needs to bring into the party to vote for her and give her a path to victory. One of my lowlights, we talked about this in another episode too, but when we were talking about the student loan forgiveness, I thought that was such a good opportunity for her to like dunk, and she like missed it. Like she completely missed the opportunity. And it was right after a conversation on abortion rights and Roe v. Wade, where Donald Trump was just praising our Supreme Court and talking about how proud he is of his justices, and then he himself brings up student loan forgiveness and says, well, you said you were going to do this for all these people, and then you devastated them by not doing it. You failed, and this isn't that. That was a perfect opportunity to say that was your court, who you're so proud of, who 3 of your justices sit on, that ruled it down. We did have a plan to do it. We did it. We had people starting to apply, and your Supreme Court that you're so proud of stepped in and took it away from us, and the Republican leaning states that are continuing to sue, even with the parole in place that's happening now, the same thing. It's such an opportunity to slam dunk, and she missed it. I think because she was trying to talk about other things, but I thought that would have been a good opportunity to get one up on him.
I just remembered a couple of things. Other lowlights. Okay, the Cheney family endorsed Kamala Harris.
That's true.
You should push yourself away as far as possible as you can from the Cheneys, especially.
Not a great endorsement. Just like Viktor Orban and Trump touting how he's been endorsed by Viktor Orban. Not a great endorsement. Also, Dick Cheney and Congresswoman Lynch, or former Congresswoman Cheney. Yeah. Also not a great endorsement.
Especially today of all days. It's 9/11. I just felt like that was also an opportunity for her to push herself. But even the so-called left, right, like Bernie was praising the Cheneys for endorsing Kamala.
Yep.
That just kind of goes to show like where we're at with the American left, so-called American left, and mainstream at least. And then the last thing is they brought up China. But Kamala was the one that brought it up and was talking about, when you mentioned imperialism, it reminded me of that conversation, that the job of the United States is to stay on top and make sure that China doesn't win the race to AI and quantum computers. And that goes to show like where they're thinking of, right? Like their foreign policy is going to be really, really restrictive towards China and towards other parts of the world that are trying to liberate themselves down the line. And that's not going to change whether it's Trump or Kamala.
Yeah, definitely. One of my highlights, I think Kamala Harris never needs any help talking about abortion rights and reproductive rights. I think that was probably one of the most impactful moments of the night. Like for me, just the sympathy that she's able and the compassion that she has in her tone and in her speech when she talks about those issues, talking about women in Idaho who need to be airlifted out of their state just to receive emergency medical treatment, women who are bleeding out in parking lots because doctors are refusing to give them emergency treatment because they're scared that they're going to be sued. In one state, they're scared that they might even receive prison time for that. 11-year-old, 12-year-old children who are forced to carry a pregnancy that came from the abuse or the violation of incest or rape. Like, I think this is the compassion that she uses to talk about that issue. She never needs help talking about that issue. I think it was such a good moment for her, and it was one of the highlights of the night for me.
I agree with that one. That was my highlight too.
Yeah, the abortion issue.
Yeah, I mean, she was really strong in that issue. It's strongest probably than all the other issues that we've talked about so far. We mentioned fracking and climate change. That was just kind of like a side throwaway conversation there. I can't really remember any other highlight that I thought Kamala did really good on. I just feel like Trump admitted defeat when he went to the, what's it called, the swing room.
Oh, the spin room. Sorry.
Spin room.
Oh
okay.
yeah, let's talk about that, because that was like not planned at all. I was watching, like it had ended, and then I started cooking, but I had it like playing in the background, and then I see him like starting to walk up, and all these reporters like running up to him. But yeah, go ahead.
I just felt like that to me just showed that he had lost a debate, and
What a loser.
they told him, you need to go out there and kind of have the last word, which is something that he tried to do every single time.
Yeah.
They were moving on to the next topic, was have the last say, which is a good strategy, by the way. Like if I were debating, I would try to do that as well.
But I kept thinking, why are they acting like they can't turn his fucking mic off? You guys have the power to turn his mic off.
They want to hear him talk. They want to hear him say some outlandish shit.
That's
which
true.
he did. So when he went to the spin room and was like touting, oh, the polls just came out, I killed it 90 to 10, 70 to 10.
I need his confidence.
Yeah. I was
Delulu.
like, oh,
that's
man.
actual Delulu.
He just looked crazy, and I was like, oh, this isn't good. And he was saying that they invited him to do a second debate, and I was like, if they're inviting you to a second debate, that means you did bad.
Yeah.
They want to kill you again.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, we're going to think about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
You're not going to do it, dude. And maybe they will. Maybe they'll think it'll be better for them, but we'll see.
Yeah. And then just for context, just for listeners or viewers who may not know, the spin room is like a room off the debate floor that is dedicated for like press and surrogates from each party to go in there and spin the narrative, to go in front of a camera for CNN, for MSNBC, for ABC, talk to a reporter and spin the narrative, say that your candidate, your party did so great, they did so awesome, and talk about all the good things that happened. You see Gavin Newsom and other Democratic surrogates doing that for Kamala Harris. You see Senator Marco Rubio and other Republicans doing that for Donald Trump. It's called, that's literally what it's called. It's called a spin room, because you're spinning the narrative and trying to make something more favorable. And for the candidate to just get off the debate floor, it was desperate. And I think the American people were going to see how desperate of a move that was, to feel that you need to go in there into the actual spin room to spin your performance that you just had.
Yeah.
But yeah. So our producer Tamara has a trivia for us. She has a couple questions. Or they're not questions, they're just
It's a mix of quotes.
Okay, a mix of quotes. Mix of quotes and questions. We've never seen this before, so we're gonna react in like real time.
Okay, so I'm gonna give a quote and then y'all have to guess who said it.
Okay.
Not difficult. First quote. Many professors think my plan is a great plan. Will bring a lot of money to our country.
Okay, many professors think my plan is a great plan. Will mean money to our country,
Yes.
right? That was President Trump?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Blank doesn't have a plan.
Blank doesn't have a plan. That's also President Trump. No, that's Vice President Harris.
Wait.
I think it's Vice President Harris.
Could be both. I mean, is this in the same context or a separate conversation?
Separate question.
I think it's Vice President Harris.
I'm going to say Harris. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was both.
Oh, they both said it? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Love that.
Israel has a right to defend itself.
That's Vice President
Harris.
Harris.
Yeah.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
That was David Muir. No?
Harris.
Harris.
Wait.
Oh, was it Kristen Walker?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm not even repeating. I'm supposed to be repeating this. Okay. So no, there's no state in the country where you have a right to kill a baby after 9 months. That was the moderator, Kristen Walker.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, who said that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one came up with the border security bill, which I supported, which would have put 1,500 more border agents to help those folks who are working overtime to do their job.
Kamala.
That was Harris.
Yeah, Harris.
Yeah, touting the border bill.
And then question, what was trending on Twitter? A, cooked. B, what is he talking about? C, they're eating the dogs. Or D, execute the baby.
Oh my god.
All of
the
those.
above.
Yeah,
All
all of
the
the above. These were the
Yeah.
topics trending on Twitter. So they were cook.
All of the
What is he
above.
talking about? What was the other ones?
They're eating the dogs.
They're eating the dogs.
And then execute the baby.
Execute the babies. Yeah. All of the above. Those were all trending on Twitter.
Yeah.
And then last question, who brought up the topic of Ukraine?
Okay, question is who brought up the topic of Ukraine? The moderators did, didn't they? Wasn't that one of the questions? No?
I think Trump did.
Was it Trump?
I don't know. I think.
I want to say that Kamala brought it up to throw Putin in his face and maybe say that, like, I don't know. I'm going to say that it was Kamala.
I'm gonna say it was Trump. I'm gonna guess
It was
Trump.
It was Trump.
It was
Yeah.
Trump. Wow. Okay.
And that's all.
Oh, those are all?
Yay.
Okay. So now we can probably share some funny memes.
Yeah.
If you guys,
Yeah.
there was a lot last night, but let's see if we'll also send them to you, Daniel, so that you can like include them. Okay, I'll show you guys this one. This one's the aliens after their transgender operations.
I love that one.
Yeah. I just saw the Alien movie too.
Oh yeah.
This is similar to that. This is a throwback though. And when I saw this movie, when I saw this, it kind of freaked me out. So I'm glad somebody shared it.
Like like transgender.
Oh my god.
You
that
have the
was
same
mine. I was
one?
gonna
That's
say that one.
Yeah.
You're about to show that one. Okay, I saw this one and it said the menus in Ohio.
Oh my god. I love that show. This is the Vince McMahon one. Like that the format of Vince McMahon where he's like slowly losing it more and more and more.
I don't think I have any more.
Okay.
There was a bunch of like Roger from American Dad,
Oh yeah.
you know, because he's always like cross-dressing and he's an alien.
This is the one I was talking about as far as like bringing up a third party in the conversation so that
Cold, calm, and genocidal.
those folks don't feel like there's only two options
Mm-hmm.
on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
I saw one and it was, just to be clear, illegal aliens are having transgender operations. They're stealing your cat and your dog and they're eating them, all while in jail. And taking your
and they're
black
voting.
job.
And they're
Yeah.
voting.
And they're voting.
And they're voting.
And they're taking your black job.
Yeah.
Yeah. All while in jail.
Yeah.
Hey, do we have any other ones?
No, that's all.
I think I have another one. This one's a video.
Okay.
So this one's moderator. You have 1 minute. Trump's response.
Palm restaurant. My uncle Junior works there, who is a Jehovah's Witness.
From
Believe it or
Catholic
not,
to
he went from
Jehovah.
Catholic to Jehovah. So basically, my grandmother wanted us all to switch from Catholic to Jehovah.
That's
You know,
basically
meanwhile, we're
Trump.
from Harlem. Which
I
my
love that video.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, any final thoughts on last night's presidential debate? Do you guys think that we're going to get a second one? Kamala Harris has invited President Trump to one, but he has not accepted as of right now.
I don't think so. I don't think he'll do it.
No.
Yeah, I doubt it.
You doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, it's gonna be highly focused on those battleground states. So I don't know if California and California specific issues will ever be brought up in a future conversation that they're having with their supporters and whatnot, but we'll be tuning in to share our thoughts as things happen, as maybe another debate potentially, probably not though. Anything else that's maybe coming down the pipeline, Hector, that we should be aware of? I don't think there's anything really planned right now as far as like a speaking engagement or an event.
No.
Yeah.
No, they're just campaigning, rallying in the The battleground states, yeah. They're not gonna be coming to California.
Yeah, they're not
They're
coming.
fundraising. I mean, they're obviously still fundraising, but like their fundraising events, they're like past that right now at this point. So they're just rallying and campaigning in those battleground states. But yeah, okay. Any final thoughts, Yasmin, sorry.
Just Taylor Swift endorsing
Oh, yes.
Kamala. That was crazy.
She did with a picture of herself
Of
and
her
a cat.
and the cat.
Yeah, endorsed by a childless cat lady.
Oh my god,
That's what
that's
she
so funny.
posted. Yeah. But okay, Taylor Swift is gonna win us this 2024 election. All right, well, thank you for joining us. Keep tuning back into La Coalición podcast for more episodes about politics and all the crazy stuff that's going on in this world.